This is my comprehensive review of Corsair H150i RGB Pro XT water cooler. It's the top of the line triple fan 360 radiator to cool the likes of the 5950X, as in this system, so as to enable overclocking by a good 10% to get optimum performance out of one system without letting the CPU temps under load run too hot, i.e. I would not want to see the CPU under load at over 85C, as I want the 5950X to last a good 5 years, as CPUs that are run too hot over time will degrade and tend to eventually require underclocking for stability, if not eventually fail. And this is what the cooler looks like when switched on with its RGB on the pump. Note RGB is not on the fans, which for me is fine because I'm not into RGB, and as you can tell it runs fairly quiet when not under load. The current price of the radiator on Amazon is £137 against its regular price of £153, and you can check the link in the description. What happens to your system when you run the Corsair's iCue software? This system's not running the iCue software at the moment, so it's not managing the fans or anything, and it's got powering 3 screens by the RTX 3080 as a 5950X processor, 16 core. Lots of tabs open on browsers and programs, even crypto mining in the background with nice hash. So the system's been up for at least a week uptime. So now I'm gonna run nice hash, what am I talking about, iCue, and see what happens to the temps. The temps, fan speed, CPU wattage, what effect it has, because in my experience iCue is power hungry and processor intensive. Let's demonstrate it. All I'm going to do is run the software and we'll see what happens. Let's go to iCue, is it? Type in iCue, there we go. Corsair's iCue app. It's just using the balance setting that it's running now. Let's move it to a different window so you can see. iCue, show you the settings, cooling there. Everything's on balanced. Fans are ramped up. What's jumped? Look, CPU coolant temperatures jumped. Processor is not moved. Wattage is not moved. Why has the temperature gone up? It's shot up. Just resetting the. So wattage has not gone up. Fans ramped up. Why has the coolant temperature shot up? I don't understand it. What are you doing? The fans are. Oh, you can see the fans have gone up. CPU temperature dropped marginally, but look at the coolant temperature. And the fans, obviously the fans are going to cool down the CPU. It's a lot more noisier, you can hear it in fact. It's still going up. Yeah, there was a spike in the, small spike in processor usage. But why is there a jump in temperature? As soon as I loaded it, I think because it's using the processor, so you see a jump in temperature. This is balance setting. It's not affected anything else, I can tell. Now it's starting to settle down. Temperature, I don't get this spike in temperature when you run iCue. Yes, it does lower CPU temperature, obviously because the fans have gone up, but it depends where it settles to. So that's what happens when you first run iCue. You see a temperature surge and the fans ramp up and CPU temperature drop. It's temporary, so obviously when the temperature drops back down like it is to where it was and the ramps will fall, then the CPU temperature will go up and it'll actually go to a higher level than it was before, because now you've got this running, causing an extra load. Now I'm not using the system, as you can tell, so it's basically idle apart from crypto mining in the background, which is using the GPU. There's no change on there. So you get a temporary drop in temperature on the CPU by about 3 or 4 degrees because there's a spike in fan usage. As that comes down, what you see is that the temperature starts to go back up. And look, there's been an increase in wattage. So that's what it was before. That's what it is after. So it's using significantly. It's using power. The iCue software is using wattage. So see, after that brief decline, it's now going back up to what the temps were before, slowly. It's just basically the temps are roughly back to where they were before, roughly, maybe slightly higher, fan slightly higher. So from what I can see, all the iCue software is doing, this is on balance setting, is putting the system under extra strain, extra wattage. That requires extra cooling to keep the temperatures down. So there's no point in having Corsair iCue software running in the background. There's no point. You would only run it if you wanted to ramp up the fan speeds to like maximum extreme on the cooler. If you're just using it as normal, then there's no point. Now watch, I'm going to exit it and let's see what happens. Yeah, go there, quit. That's the only way to exit it. If you click X there, it won't exit. This is the only way to exit iCue. There, it's gone. Now let's see what happens to the temps. And oh, coolant temperature is dropping. Fans dropping, it's gone quiet. Temperature's dropped. In fact, it's dropped below the base level on the chart. I'm going to reset it. Yeah. That shows you what a system hog iCue software is. Look, the temperature's now back to where it was. The CPU with, you know, it inflates the coolant temperature. And the fans are down to 600, so quieter. All that block is when iCue was running. Now I've switched it off. I suspect that iCue software inflates the actual system temperature. Yeah, I think it adds 1 degree. So wherever your system temperature was, it adds 1 degree. it's not an accurate, that's what it seems like, because look, you get that temperature spike, and as soon as you exit you get a similar temperature drop. Why is that? It's as though it adds 1 degree. Fans are back down to normal. Look, quiet. Wattage, look, wattage has dropped. That was average wattage. That was before, during and after. That shows you iCue software is a system hog. So if you're running iCue, exit it. It's acting as a drain on your system. Your system is running noisier, and look, it runs a cooler, quieter, less power hungry than without iCue running. The Corsair Radiator, which is the H100, 115 or 150 that's in this system. How to switch that jet engine off, those triple fans on full speed after a failed firmware update, which is more probable than not given the iCue software is garbage. Now to put up with this racket for the last 2 days. In this video I'm gonna turn it, fix it, or it's gonna destroy it, rip it out, one or the other. Can't work with this racket. As you can see, the Corsair RGB is off, which is what happens, and the fans are on full power. What a racket. So I'm going to take you through the steps to get it working. That's the iCue garbage software. Where's the radiator? Nowhere. Just a firmware update bricked it. So the first step is to search your C drive for the hex file. What's the hex file? Well, basically that's the firmware update file that failed to work, and it'll be stored on your C drive. Just search C drive for the hex file, as I've done in this video. So the next step is to copy your hex file to an easy to access location. I'll copy this to the D drive, and also rename it, get rid of all of the characters you don't need, just the main version number, so you can locate it for the next step. Step 3 is to restart the computer in safe mode. So you hold the shift key down whilst you press restart. Okay, so you want to enable safe mode, which is option number 4. Enable safe mode, and it should take us to the Windows login screen. You get this garbage message. So now we're in safe mode. We need to bring up Task Manager so we can make sure no Corsair app is running. Make sure the app is not see anything. So any Corsair apps running, gotta exit sort by name. Yeah, it's sorted by name. Anything with Corsair on it. Now I'm just taking a look at the services tab, make sure that there's nothing running. Stopped. Corsair. Yeah, doesn't seem to be anything running. Look at status. Running. No. Nothing appears to be running. So what I've done now is open 2 file explorers. As you can see, they're quite large because the screen resolution is low in safe mode. And is my hex file in this file explorer. While in this one I've gone into the Corsair folder on C drive under program files. And you see, this is just the Corsair iCue, as you can see at the top. C program files, Corsair Corsair iCue software, and I've located the XMC bootloader XE. Now you don't run it. What you do is you grab the hex file and place it on top of the boot. So basically you're getting the bootloader to open the hex file and run it. Now a command prompt should now open when I let go of the mouse. And there we go. It's found the device, connecting to bootloader. Let's see if it works. Ooh, it's writing to the hardware now. Hopefully. So far it doesn't look like it's working. Fingers crossed. Oh, it's worked. Can you hear that? Silence. The light come on. Yeah, look. Corsair lights come on. It worked. And that's how you turn off the Corsair jet engines. Fixed. Unbrick the H150i. Didn't take long. So if you follow these steps, it'll work for you too. Come on, don't give me any error message. I want to boot in to see what the fans are spinning at. No error message. Because the system isn't silent. I hope the fans are spinning. So we need to find out. Yes, that's my background. Google stock price. Ooh, I can hear the fans. Hardware info. Come on. There we are. We can see the settings now. What's the temperature? 36 degrees. Fan 1000 RPM. Yep, it's working. 28 degrees. Oh, that's the CPU coolant temperature. Okay, now we're gonna, well, the iCue software should be running. There it is. Bring to foreground and it should show. There we are, Corsair cooling. And there's the fan curves. And it is changing. Fixed. Done. No more jet engine. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to exit the iCue software because it is a pile of garbage. Yeah, it's a pile of garbage. You don't want to have it running. It's going to be it's a process of hog, and as you see, it crippled the system. So we've got the fan running at 1000 RPM. The coolant temperature at 28. Shall I run Cinebench R20, put it under load and see what happens? The fan should ramp up. I've got Cinebench R20 running now. Move it to this other monitor. Run. Let's see if it can. Yep. Fans are ramping up. That's it. 1400 RPM. That is a lot quieter. And it's under full load. So that's how you fix your Corsair Radiator if you've bricked it because you've used iCue software. As you see, I've just fixed this one. Straightforward, just follow the steps in this video and you can unbrick your Corsair H150i. Oh, that is excellent. Quiet. After having to put up with a jet engine for 2 days, I've got silence now. Silence is bliss. Piece of garbage. Corsair H150i's bricked itself again. Fans are on full power, it's not under any load. Lighting's on though. Maybe it'll recover from a boot. Yeah, the fans are loud on maximum RPM. Temperature's 31 for the cooler. CPU's 38. It's not under any load. Well, there's a full, all of the fans are on full. Pump. Let's see, put them on quiet. See if it makes, it's not going to make any difference, I know. There. What's that? Update, no thank you. No thanks. So I'm quiet, made no difference. Go back on my... Oh, Corsair's hardware is a piece of poop. This is the third time it bricked itself. First time it was no light. It did it another time, a couple of, in May. It's now August, September 7th. So every 3 months it just out of the blue, not doing anything, and it bricks itself. So what I'm going to do first is a reboot. Maybe that will do it because the light is on, but you can't change anything. Let's see if I can change the lighting. Yeah, lighting effects. Yeah, that's the ones on at the moment. RPM is stuck, so let's just do a reboot. Well, I'm restarting now, and let's see if the blooming fans go off, go down. Still making a racket. I'll do the boot into safe mode and do it that way. Come on. No effect on the fans. So reboot didn't work. Let's turn it off. What's it doing? I'm turning it off. That's the off button. Keep it off. Turn off power. So I'll turn it on and see what happens. Come on, pain in the butt. So I'm going to have to do the firmware update again. Okay, so here we go. Firmware update. I'm going to drop the hex file on top of the bootloader. Okay, it's quieting down. Did it on its own. I had not even got around to what happened. Oh, I think it ran the iCue software. So rebooting did work. It was that once it ran the iCue software, it started behaving itself. I don't know what happened. So basically what you saw, that it was, the fans were on maximum, but it was communicating with the iCue software, so that changed the RGB. I rebooted it without logging into Windows, and the fans were still on. So I turned it off and rebooted it again and logged into Windows, and I was about to see if I could do a hex firmware update without going into safe mode. And whilst it was booting up, it loaded iCue software and the fans have gone back to normal. So you may want to try that if your fans come on full blast. Reboot, turn it off for a few seconds, reboot, and then log into Windows and see if iCue starts working and regulates the fans. So this time the reboot worked. Brought it under control. The key signs are that your iCue software is working, communicating with it. How you can set the RGB. If you haven't got anything like your cooler in iCue, then it's bricked. Then you do a firmware update. If it's visible in iCue and you can access it, I look at the temps, look at the RPM, even though you can't influence it, and set the RGB. Then a reboot should bring it back under control. I think the default is that anytime there's a glitch between the hardware and the software, the operating system, then it just defaults to max fans. That's what happens. That's what happened there. It defaulted to maximum fans. Anyway, I didn't need to do a firmware update this time to get to work. Just the reboot worked. So what is my final conclusion? The good, the bad and the ugly. The good is that it is good at cooling CPUs, i.e. the 5950X overclocked by about 10% under load, maxes out at around 55 degrees, and that is not with the most aggressive cooling settings. The bad is that iCue software is garbage. Do not make the mistake of doing a firmware update, as there is a 50-50 chance it will brick your system, and then you'll need to waste time figuring out how to unbrick it. And the ugly is that when it is bricked in any way, the fans ramp up to full speed, so you have a jet engine running in your room until you sort it out. If you're lucky, turning your computer off for a few minutes could fix it, but probably not. We will have to get through the process of unbricking, which is not guaranteed to work. The bottom line is, good hardware is let down by garbage software bloatware. Corsair seriously needs to cut the bloat out and just make the software very simple and robust. Instead, they have created a resources hogging, unstable pile of poop. So overall, I rate the cooler overall package 7 out of 10. So I will continue to use it, but I won't recommend it for novices who may get stuck with a jet engine in the room. Still, if you do, then you could at least try and follow my unbricking steps. If not, return it to Corsair and get something less of a headache. If, like me, you're prepared to put up with its software flaws, then check out the link in the description for a discount of sorts. So I give it 7 out of 10.